All right, we're going to give about one more minute here. We'll get going. All right. Okay. Jeff's so excited that he wants to get going here. So I'm sure you can see his pearly whites smiling on both the screen and on the camera. So I just want to welcome everyone today to webinar, Sales Mastery Performance Driven Selling Webinar. Your prospects, your customers are MIA. Now what? Dr. Magee is actually going to go through the presentation, and he's going to get with everyone and talk to everyone about the great things that are going on with there. So Jeff, you can keep moving on to the next slide. So here's a quick agenda for today. It's going to be about 60 minutes. The topic is your prospects and customers are MIA. Now what? We'll have some questions and then some special bonuses at the end. I am George Tsafonias. I am the host of this webinar for Dr. Magee. I'm a digital growth director from Digital Guidance. I have my own company. All right. So for those that don't know Dr. Magee, he has been called one of the top leading marketing, leadership and marketing strategists. Jeff works with Fortune 100 companies across the board, entrepreneurs, leaderships, you name it, NASA, just a ton of great companies. He does corporate development work for them as from startup all the way through sales, leadership, and you name it. Some of the great companies that he works for are here. He has some great endorsements from people that have heard Jeff speak and work with Jeff on a regular basis. Here's a great one too from Les Brown, as well as Ivan Meisner, who's one of the top sales leadership guys. I think we've all been in B&I at one point in time in our careers. So great raving fan testimonial there. So before we start, I want to just jump up put up a quick poll as Jeff gets going, and we're just trying to get an understanding and a quick feel of where everyone is. So that'll pop up onto your screen. We're going to leave that up a couple minutes as Jeff gets going here. All right. All right, I'll give everybody another few seconds to put in their information. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Some great feedback, great perspectives. Thank you all very much for joining us today. George, thanks for teeing us up and getting us started. So that poll gives us a pretty good perspective of the realities we all are living in. Again, if we use February as a footprint and point of reference for the next 45 to 50 minutes, most everyone that I work with and my colleagues in the industry, if we reboot back to February, everyone for the most part had, if not mentally in their head, physically on a sheet of paper, a business plan for their business for 2020 at the beginning of this year. Some of those people, the business plan also address revenue generation, business development, recruitment, whatever it is that's in your business. And what was interesting is that everyone in February was looking out over the horizon of 2020 with a pretty good game plan in mind, they thought. What is interesting though, now if we jump forward 4 months to basically we're starting the month of July, is where is your business now? That poll gives us a way to calibrate. As you just noticed with a lot of your colleagues, everyone is somewhat in the same position of, yes, I've made some adjustments. I've made a lot of adjustments, and a small number have made a major pivot completely. And that's the reality as we look at the rest of 2020 and into 21, 22. I'm coaching my clients really from this perspective. Whatever was working, I mean, really working. Quit kidding yourself, quit lying. I got a lot of organizations I don't work with that I'd love to work with that were just dead set lying to their bosses in February with how good they were going to do in 2020. And truth be told, they weren't doing that impressive in February. So COVID has given a lot of people good cover to cover for the perspective that I sucked in February, truth be told, and I'm really sucking now. So how do we look at things differently? So whatever you were doing in February, if it was really working, then my first coaching advice is double down and keep doing it. If it was working before COVID, it probably is working still. You just have to get smarter about it, more strategic about it, and double down on what will work. Then let's look at some things a little bit differently, because we definitely do have a problem out there with what's going on in the marketplace. No matter what numbers and statistics you look at, we're being bombarded with these every day, whether you're on your smart devices, whether you're watching your favorite news channel, whether you listen to people or you have something on in a car, satellite, doesn't matter. We're hearing these numbers coming at us from every direction. We're hearing states that are opening and doing okay. Some states are doing good. Some states are opening and now they're talking about re-shutting back down. So these numbers are all impacting people's psychology and how we see the market space. And a lot of people are going into panic mode and are becoming paralyzed by the numbers. So what I don't want us to do is to get psyched out by these numbers, because there's a huge debate as to what's reality in these numbers and what might be phantom as well. But the reality, though, is this: the people that we need to engage to do our business, whether that is in essence networking, connecting, whether that is following up with clients, following up with prospects, whether that's engaging in people, it has hit us in terms of how we operated in February versus today. The number of face-to-face meetings, if you looked at your calendar for last November, December, this January and February, versus the last 30, 60 days, you would see is absolutely probably leveled out for most of us. Now, some people instantly pivoted and realized, just like this video platform we're on right now, that business can continue. You just have to look at new ways of doing that business. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But it's impacted how we reach people, how we have meetings, how we, in essence, make those phone calls or lack of phone calls, and how the revenue stream is really managing. So we have to address those differently. So as George kind of teed up, again, are your prospects and customers missing in action? MIA, missing in action. And if they are, how do we start to engage them differently? That's what we want to talk about. So this is not a social media marketing webinar. I'm not a social media guy, so you can all take a deep breath on that one. It's not where we're headed. Some of you online here with the 100-ish people that have signed up today are probably significantly better situated to talk about social media, and that's not where I'm going. As a sales strategist, as a sales architect, I want us to look at this just a little bit differently. Now, again, keep in mind what I said at the beginning. Whatever was working in February that was your core business practice for your core business you're in, double down on it, because again, you still have to generate revenue to keep the doors open, whether you're working virtually or in a traditional brick and mortar back in the office, as they say. So I want to hit 3 items today. The first is, how can we leverage your virtual social footprint? How do we leverage that footprint that's out is where I want to kind of go first. So in looking at number 1, think of it this way. Whether you use any social media platform, I want you to consider the next couple of slides, the next couple of items I'm going to share with you. And just look at these next couple of slides from the standpoint of, how can I use this? Even if I have to adjust what Magee is saying a little bit, how do I use it on any of my social media platforms? Because for some of you, the business you're in, it's probably relevant for you to be on one social media platform versus another. For me, in essence, what I did, so here's the first thoughts to be writing down about social media, was a couple of years ago, I heard all of this noise out there in the universe about what you have to be doing, and everyone's telling you, you gotta be here. And I said, wait a second. If I really am involved in all these social media outreach opportunities that I'm being told I need to be a part of, number 1, I don't have the time and energy to do it. Number 2, I don't have the interest in doing it. So number 3, how do I pay someone to do it? But even before all that, I said, wait a second. Each of these platforms are designed for different objectives. That's the first thing I want you to write down about it, in essence, leveraging your social media or social media footprint. Each platform has a different purpose. So again, whether you're looking at Pinterest or Instagram, or whether you're looking at, in essence, Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, and they go on and on and on. You've got to recognize what's the purpose of each, and then does that fit into your target audience? Does that fit 3 audiences? Your primary audience, your secondary audience, and your tertiary audience. So the second I want you to jot down, which has an application to everything we're talking about today, is you've got to go back and relook at your market space today, given, in essence, this pandemic that's really kind of readjusted the planet, not just our own country. And I'm going to try to refrain from calling it pandemic, and really I'm going to call it more about uncertainty. That's the business word we've been using in leadership development for decades. every one of us are going to face in our business life cycle, whether it's on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual basis. We're going to sometimes run into these uncertainties of, in essence, business operation. Uncertainty whether a key player in your organization leaves or a new player comes, uncertainty. Market challenges from market competitors, uncertainty. Market volatility due to, in essence, economics, or in essence, a wildfire or a hurricane or a tornado. I mean, there's always uncertainty. Uncertainties in your, in essence, pipeline for, in essence, your distribution channel. So you can go on with this. But if you really want to be effective, number one, we're talking about your social media footprint. Number two, what is your, in essence, customer base? Primary market, secondary market, and tertiary. Most business people today do nothing on looking at their tertiary market. Most of them suck with secondary markets. And truth be told, most organizations don't even do a good job with the primary market. I work with lots of businesses, from retail and hospitality to manufacturing and distribution, from financial to, in essence, the National Guard. And in all of them, there are some common threads. It's always amazing when people say, well, my business is different, Dr. Magee. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, it pretty much does. They all work the same way. You've got uniquenesses and nuances, absolutely. But you've got to really look at the market space for what it is. If you look at the market space for what it is, then you and I can become significantly more successful at what we're doing. So again, how do we leverage this footprint more effectively? The first thing I want to talk about is LinkedIn. Now, I'm only going to talk about LinkedIn. So as I talk about this, folks, I want you to recognize if for you, Facebook is a major platform, then think about how you would do it there. If for you, in essence, you're more in retail, and so that consumer mindset is really important for you, maybe in essence, Instagram or Pinterest or those others might be more important, but it's the same game everywhere. But one of the things I recognized I was doing before, in essence, March, when the whole world got turned upside down, was I was using LinkedIn several ways to grow my business. I was using it to gain market intelligence. I was using it to stay connected with my primary customers. I was using it to, in essence, add to that sales funnel activities by looking for secondary and tertiary markets. What happened in March when the world started shutting down, I realized the power of your social media footprint can significantly impact your business. My business has increased at over 400% in the past 3.5 months. None of the clients I do leadership training and sales training with, in essence, said stop. They all said, okay, Magee, what you're doing has a huge ROI. How do we use, in essence, this visual platform? So we went to WebEx. We went to, in essence, Teams. We went to, in essence, Meet. We went to, in essence, Zoom. So in using that, though, I was able to start to track my customers differently. And so I want to talk about the power of 5 clicks on LinkedIn that you can start doing. If you're doing it now, I want you to double down on this one when you get done today. If you're not doing this one, I want you to significantly and seriously look at this as a viable business development activity and invest maybe 30 minutes a day, every day, just in this. Trust me, if you're in need of sales right now, then spending 30 minutes on this each day is not going to mess you up. Because if you're already in trouble, another 30 minutes ain't going to make or break you. But if you do this 30 minutes smartly, it may in fact make you and help you to get out of being in that survival mode. A lot of businesses are in survival mode because they're working from desperation, folks. It's like putting your hands on your head. When you're working in desperation mode, you have, in essence, limited vision of what you can do and the opportunities are out there. I look at the National Guard, 3,822 recruiters in the United States, and 95% of them right now are going to fail at making their sales quota for the year because they and their sales leaders have blinders on. Now, there's about a half a dozen sales leaders out there in the National Guard that are very forward focused, and they're not falling into this trap, and they're saying, wait a minute, blinders off. We got to look at this differently. And this is one of the places that they're playing, just as an example. But here's how I use LinkedIn to grow my business. And some of you watching today are my clients. So there's 5 items I want to coach you on. Now, I've got a couple of sales leaders on this call that I know. I won't call you out by name. It's not the right platform for that one. And you've got sales teams. So some of you, I've went through this exercise before. So my challenge to you would be, when you're done, make a note right now to the side, but when you're done, go and look at your social media footprint in terms of LinkedIn for every one of your sales representatives. Have they done numbers 1 and 2 on here? And if not, then in essence, we talked about something that could have worked and we're not getting any mileage out of it. So the first thing I would encourage all of you to do is, number 1, when I say post, what I want you to do is put some subnotes next to the word post. The first thing I want you to do before post, in essence, is think of the word profile. The first thing you need to do is make sure your profile is updated. If you never thought of it this way, here's how I look at LinkedIn in terms of my profile. And that's just an example of a snapshot of my first 3 screens. Think of your LinkedIn profile as the storefront of your building. If I'm pulling up in front of your manufacturing facility, your distribution facility, your corporate offices. What's that parking lot? What's that building? What's your signage look like? I'm going to presume that all of you are professional and you take pride in what that looks like, so it looks very sharp, very impressive. That's exactly how your profile should look on LinkedIn. So stop and think about, what is it that I want to project as the image? Because here's what we know statistically. The #1 search engine today, we all know, is YouTube, debatable between YouTube and Google searches. But what we know from a business resource standpoint, the #1 websites, the #1 search engine that business people look at during the day is actually LinkedIn. I may never phone call you, but I'm going to go to LinkedIn and check you out in terms of you personally and or your business, because almost every major business in the world today, and in the United States specifically, have corporate, have business profile pages. So the first thing I want you is look at your profile and truly make sure it looks impressive. Beef it up. Look within your organizations. If one of your colleagues has an impressive page, if they do, use that as a template. Go out and look at some of the people that you respect in the industry. See if they have a great profile page. If they do, then in essence, use that and template off of it. But you want to make sure the keynote that you want to have written down before we talk about the true, most people understand the word post, is what I'm first having you do on the word post is post by make sure your profile is posted with all of the right data. Make sure your profile is posted with all the most current information. Make sure your profile is also posted, and here's a key word to write down, narrative. Make sure you go into your website, your LinkedIn profile, and make sure you add the narrative. You can look at mine as kind of a benchmark if you want. It's not the greatest, but it's damn good. So you want to make sure that your profile shows a good reflective shot of you. I've got a client that's in the wire industry. Mike Magee works out of Arizona. He has a phenomenal profile page. His picture at the top, in essence, is pictures of wire from his company, and even says the company name in it. So think about, put a little juice into what's even going to be your storefront look, but then what are the key words? What's the narrative of how you help the marketplace? What's the narrative as to how you help your customers to win, so that pulls people in? Because if you're going to do the techniques I'm going to teach you here, it starts with your profile. If it looks like crap, you're not going to get much traction. Think of your profile like bait, and you want to go at fishing, have some good bait, you'll pull people in. But now here's how I spend about 30 minutes every day on LinkedIn to stay connected with the market space, to stay connected with my customers, and to stay connected with, in essence, where I'm going. So what you want to do is every one of your key customers, you can connect with them. If you pull up their, in essence, profile on LinkedIn, you can connect and you can follow them. So what I'm going to teach and advocate you do is you follow every one of your key customers by person and every one of your key customers' organizations. Think of the prospects you're trying to go after next. You want to follow them, follow the key buyers in that organization or decision makers, and follow those organizations. Think of your competition. Who are some major companies that they have that you want to go after? You want to follow those people. You want to follow your main competition, because here's the beauty of LinkedIn that I think is magical. Every morning when you sign on to LinkedIn is one of the things you open up on your dashboard each morning. When you open up your LinkedIn account, across the navigational bar at the top, anyone you're following, it will tell you in the notices section how many updates are there. And then anytime during the day, doesn't matter, you can click and look through that. And now if I'm following one of my clients, if I'm following one of my prospects, anytime they do something, that will be updated. I'm going to get, in essence, a post that they posted to their LinkedIn profile. So now I can go look at their post. Number one, if you follow the right people, they will put into your sales funnel when they are ready to buy something from you, if you are paying attention. Trust me, your competition is not doing this, because most salespeople, not you, most salespeople, no one on here, most salespeople, no one you know, most salespeople are freaking lazy. They're lazy. We've all went to this world and we want the low-hanging fruit, and we use COVID as our example of why no one's buying. And I'm loving the fact people are using those excuses and bosses are accepting it, because I'm sliding right past them and making sales all day long. So what you want to do then is look at what your contacts post, your suspects post, your prospects post. I've got some client organizations that have marketing teams, and those marketing teams, they post every day on their LinkedIn profile updates. So either what the company's doing, something new the company's acquired, a new customer, someone's having an anniversary. So they'll give you good intel even on your clients who stay connected. So again, part of your customer base is staying connected with them. And here's a new way I just shared with you to stay connected. Because a lot of people say, well, Jeff, you know, I sell the company ABC and I talked to them today. What do you mean I should find a way to connect with them every day or every couple of days? They're not going to buy for 4 more days. Well, I'm not always talking about buy-sell transactions. It's also about building a relationship. Here's ways you find out things. So one of the organizations I follow, let me put this into context. So I'm in essence wanting to do business with more of a certain organization. I found this one organization. They're based in North Dakota. They're a national organization. I follow them. And during COVID, they posted that they have a new CEO and a new president that in essence transitioned and took over the company. So I would have never have known that because they were not a primary customer. And a lot of times your suspects, you're not on top of all your suspects. So, but if I'm following them, my suspects always come back up on my radar whenever they post. So when that company posted these two new gentlemen to the company, boom, I simply went to those names, clicked on that name. It took me to their, in essence, just like my profiles I put on this page, took me to their profile. I could read about them. I could see if there's some ideas in there as to who they are, what their background is, that I might be able to help them to accomplish their objective. And if so, then I go back out and I, in essence, link to that person. I look at what, in essence, they're doing, and I leverage that by sending them a value-based message. Congratulations on your new position. My name is Jeffrey Magee. I work with organizations like, I could name drop a couple businesses that mean something to them. I'd like to have a chance to visit with you as you take over to help you to integrate the leadership team to your philosophies and views to help all of us to win. You can make up some sort of a statement that makes sense. So that's one way to use these 5 statements. Second way. So every day I go onto my LinkedIn, I look at the notifications, I see who's posted things. I look at those posts, just like on Facebook, it works the same way. And I can then see if anyone said, hey, great job or congratulations. Let me go back to the same business example from North Dakota. So when those 2 gentlemen were announced that they were the new CEO and president, I could go to that post. I could see who made a comment below that liked it, said congratulations, whatever. I could click, I could link on that person's comment. I could link on them. It took me to their LinkedIn profile page. I could look at that page to see if they're a prospect. And if so, I click back out and I leverage that by sending them a message. So I do this every day, 30 minutes worth of time. And that has generated not only new connections and new conversations in the past 90 days, but my second largest client I have today went from contact to contract in the last 90 days since COVID, doing exactly this model. 30 years in business, my second largest client, boom, came from this page right here. So it absolutely works. So I would challenge you to take time to look at that one technique and idea. We can talk more one-on-one later if you want. When we do our 2-day live training program, we even go one step at a time, and I use some of you that would be my audiences, and we talk about ways to use this to generate leads, generate contacts, generate business. So with that, I want to hit pause just for this one idea. Turn it back over to George for another polling question for all of us to learn from each other real quickly here.
All great stuff, Jeff. We have a new poll up here. Feel free to answer. We'll give you a few seconds to do this. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, Jeff. LinkedIn, I call it shooting fish in a barrel, right? If you're an active salesperson, or if you're in marketing, or it doesn't matter your industry, if you're able to go onto LinkedIn, spend a good chunk of my day on there trying to get intelligence on many of the people that I'm talking to. So
key element, George and I have worked together on various projects for over 20 years. I trust him greatly. It's kind of like, do you trust someone? One way of saying that is, would you let them come over to your house when you're not there? Would you let them, babysit your kids? It always kind of makes you psychologically ponder, I trust him. I trust George with my life. Phenomenal gentleman. He's worked with lots of businesses, as I'm giving you guys a couple more seconds to take this poll, to do exactly this, social media marketing. That's his space. That's where he lives. In terms of marketing and outreach campaigns for businesses, he's worked with billion-dollar companies, and he's worked with $100 million companies. He's worked with small startup businesses. So if any of you are online and that'd be of interest to you, then just reach out to me and I can get you connected with George afterwards, or reach out to George directly. But that's definitely a space. All right, so let's end this poll. Thank you. So quite a bit's what a lot of you are saying. Some few changes for a couple of you, and complete reboot for others. So again, just starts to give you perspective of where we are. And what's critically important as we keep moving forward. So how do we make these adjustments? I want to give you 2 additional tools. So everyone grab your cell phone right now. And again, a couple of you are on here. I saw you sign up. And I actually do leadership training in your organizations. And thank you greatly. Some of you, I do sales training within your organizations. And I thank you for that greatly. A couple of you have been to our public programs we do here in Vegas each quarter. Our Sales Mastery Performance Driven Selling Bootcamp 1.0. We'll talk about that here towards the end as well, a special offer for all of you. So some of you, I'm saying that because you're familiar with this concept right here. So I would challenge you, as I challenged some of you on LinkedIn a second ago, I would challenge you on this one. If you've done this next activity, are you actually deploying it because you've got to be religious about this. You've got to be disciplined about this. You've got to be dedicated about this. You've got to do this over and over again to reap the reward. Some people have very short attention spans, and not necessarily anything negative, but you've got to stick with these things to make it work. So if you grab your cell phones, here's what I want you to do. Pull up the calendar in your phone. If you use a calendar system in your phone, pull up your calendar, everybody. Come on, do this. Grab your phones. And if you don't have a calendar system in your phone, then pull up and send yourself a text. And the first text you want to send yourself is learn how to use your calendar so you can be like other successful people. Because if you're not using a calendar in your phone, you are not nearly as successful as you could be. So just imagine, if you're already a rock star right now, if you started using your calendar, you're going to freaking go out of orbit with successes. So what I want you to do is bring up your calendar for next Monday. Bring it up for next Monday. And I want you to pick a time. So don't try to impress me. Pick a time about 2 hours into a normal Monday. So if you normally start your work on Mondays at 6 a.m., then pick 8. If you normally start at 8, then go to around 10. If you work a split shift, whatever your hours are, go about 2 hours into the beginning of your day. And I want you to toggle and bring up that hour, but put in a very awkward minute. So for me, I have typed in 7:15 a.m. because the likelihood I'm probably ever going to need to schedule something at 7:15 is very low to 0. But see, if I typed in 7 or 7:30, then there's a chance in the future I might need to put something on a date on that time. So boom, I'm going to veto this, and then you've messed up the whole concept. So what I want you to do on that Monday with that awkward time of the hour and an awkward minute, so 17-minute or 7, if I'm going 7 a.m., 7:32, I mean, pick a weird minute. Then I want you to type in the note you see right there, Rule 152X. So you can type in deploy Rule 152X. Then hit save, but before you close out, hit save so it also adjust the repeat section that you have in your calendar. So it repeats every Monday for the rest of your life. I'm going to teach you a concept called Rule 152X. And if there's a reminder every Monday morning and you consider if it's relevant to deploy it, do. And if you legitimately can't, then ignore it. But it's going to come up next Monday. And you can see right there in my own calendar, there it is. It's 7:15, deploy Rule 152X. I am not just sharing it. I live by this concept. And once you really understand it, you can tweak the concept. You can deploy it any day of the week if you want. But here's what it suggests. There's always exceptions to the rule, but the norm I've learned in 30 years of management and business owning and in sales is Monday mornings are the most counterproductive, worthless minutes on the clock when it comes to selling. Unless you have before that Monday set something specifically up to do on Monday. It's amazing how many people will spend Monday morning just looking busy, but when the dust settles, nothing meaningful gets done. No one wants you to make an outbound sales call to them, so we all don't make sales calls typically. We have meetings that are not organized, so they're a train wreck, et cetera, et cetera. So the point being then is let's take part of Monday mornings, and unless someone has said, hey, call me at 8 o'clock, then let's do some business sales strategy. So what 152X says is this, write this down. 1 is every Monday. So you've just done that by plugging this in your calendar for every Monday. 52, well, there's 52 weeks in a year. So whatever this model is about to become, you now know every Monday of every week throughout the year, then I'm coaching you to consider doing this. Now, some of you are business owners and leaders on here today. So the company could do a macro version of this outbound to the market space of suspects or prospects or customers or inactive customers or lost customers or whatever. But if you also have an individual sales role in the company, I'm also saying as an individual, we should do 152X. So here's how the model works. Every Monday morning, I'm going to identify X. X, if you want to label it, X represents demographic. Demographic. So every Monday morning, I'm going to identify a demographic that I want to reach out to. A demographic that maybe has never heard of me that I want them to become aware of me. A demographic that maybe is existing customers and I want to put my name back in front of them for a legitimate reason again. X could be inactive customers. I could do a search through our database, cross-reference that with the finance team, and it'll be very easy to create an Excel spreadsheet of all of the inactive customers. You might even find dead accounts, past accounts. You might find people that haven't bought in 30, 60, 90 days. If I'm a military recruiter, then in essence, I can get a list of everyone in the Guard in my state. Am I reaching out to them? All the people in the Guard attached to the company or unit that I'm connected to, am I talking to them? I can get a list of all my COIs in the community. So if you just let your creative juices go, folks, this X variable is endless. You're never going to run out of ideas. So for example, this week, so what I did yesterday was I had actually multiple 152Xs that I launched via email. One was a list of about 200 contacts that know me. I don't know all of them. They're in a demographic that buys from me. And I just wanted them to be aware of some statistics that are happening out in the market space that could impact their sales team's ability to be successful. So these 200 sales managers, I sent them an email with some information. So sometimes I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just keeping you aware of something. It's like I'm keeping my name on your radar as basically, a research analyst giving you some viable data. Another list I sent out to was a more controlled list of 54 potential contacts. These are individuals in the C-suite. And for them, I sent out an email talking about their revenue generation stream in these first 6 months of the year. And in essence, I posed some statistical questions to them to think about where they are. That then opens their mind to thinking about some, in essence, web-based training programs for them in different levels. So with that one, then I sent that information with it. Here's my number. I'm going to be reaching out to you this week to make to visit with you. If you want to call me first, here's my number. So now with that one here, listen to me. With that one, now what I've done is I've identified 50-ish people that I want to commit to making outbound sales phone calls to this week, because that's the other part that a lot of us as business owners or solo practitioners or sales managers or sales professionals, most salespeople hate making cold calls. It's human nature. But wait a minute, if I can show you a way to tee up that call so it's no longer going to be a cold call, then it's much easier for you to knock out 50 phone calls. So let's say I have a sales associate on my team and their market space is Montana. Then if I want to help to motivate them to make phone calls and be able to hold them accountable to making the phone calls and try to remove some of that salesperson reluctance to make the phone call, then I might say, okay, here's 20 prospective buyers in Montana. Let's create an email because we have their email addresses that reintroduces us to them as a company, that introduces you because, again, they can't hate you or love you because you're new to the team, introduces you, and it says, I'm going to be making a phone call to you this week to learn more about your business and just introduce myself and say hello. If you want to reach out to me, here's my phone number, and you hit send. Now, there's no cold calls to it because every phone call you make, instead of hesitating to figure out how to start the freaking phone call, I just teed it up for you. Your email is the phone call. Hi, Mr. Tsafonias, this is Jeffrey Magee. I sent you an email this morning. Did you get it? I mean, you can start off that stuttering on your, but again, it's still going to go to the point of, hi, this is Jeff Magee. I just wanted to follow up with you this morning. I sent you an email, or if you're calling on Tuesday, hi, this is Jeff Magee. I wanted to follow up on the email I sent you yesterday about business XYZ. Did you get a chance to read it? The person says yes, you say, fantastic. Let's talk more about it. They say, I haven't read it. You go, fantastic. Let me tell you what I sent you. They go, no, I didn't get it. You go, well, that's not fantastic. Here's what I was trying to get to you. Let me just make sure I've got your email address correct before I get off the phone with you. And then you just go into what you basically wrote, what you can talk to. So the 152X is a powerful tool every Monday. So think about like the week. The week starts here and the week ends over here. We're going to give you a tool at the beginning and at the end of the week to benchmark what you're doing. But 152X is powerful for you to make sure you're going after the market space. So let me just kind of give you a pause for a second here. Look at the notes you've been writing down because now I'm going to put it on turbocharge. So one is every Monday, ideally Monday morning strategy time. You can do it over the weekend ahead of time. You can do it last Friday for today, Monday. 52, you're going to put it in your phone. You put it in the calendar. You may repeat it every Monday. So every Monday it pings you. It's like a personal coach in a box. And if next Monday it's not relevant, legitimately not relevant, then you just hit dismiss on the note and keep on going with your life. But if it's not legitimately dismissible, then you go, wait a minute, this little phone's holding me accountable to deploying something that significantly can set the stage for my success in selling, identify a or several demographics, launch the email, and in it, you're basically saying, I'm going to call you this week to talk about whatever the message was about. And you send that out, and now you're holding yourself accountable to make those phone calls. Again, salespeople do not make enough outbound phone calls to quality contacts. Salespeople don't make enough outbound contacts, period. We get busy doing 9,000 other things besides calling the market space. So here's a very powerful tool you can do every morning. I'm only coaching it on Monday morning. Okay, so here's a turbocharger. Put some sub notes. Every core product your company sells. So if you have 100 SKUs, break it down maybe by category. If you've got a bazillion SKUs, then break it down by maybe what's your top 2 or 3 products. Or what are some products that you're not selling enough of? Or what are some products that you're trying to clear out of your inventory? See, again, Monday morning's about strategy development time and execution. So that X factor could also be core product prospects. So let's put some examples of X. I gave you a whole bunch. Now we're charging it. So how you hold yourself accountable is you can launch multiple 152Xs on a Monday, or you could do one on Monday, one on Tuesday, or one on Wednesday. But think of your core products and who are the best buyers for that? Who are the best prospects for that? And what are you doing to market that in the market space? Second, geography. Write down geography. You can think about the geography of your prospects, of your customer base, whether it's global, whether it's national, whether it's regional, whether it's by state or by zip code. You can break it down as big or as large as you want. If it's more online, same thing. Look at the psychographics of the people that buy online. Look at the demographics of who buys online. Look at the segmentation of who buys online. You can slice and dice that one down in ways on an Excel spreadsheet. So again, the X you can be going after are core products you have to sell, who are the prospects and or customers of that one. Think of the core market segmentations geographically. So again, how do you look at those differently? So using 152X is powerful. You could also, so is that making sense?
Hey, Jeff.
George, yes, please.
Can you move that slide ahead? Because you are super passionate about this, but I know that there's some info right there. There it is.
Good man. That's why you're like the webmaster, producer, director extraordinaire. So there's your 152X. And again, those of you have a copy of my sales book, Sales Mastery, then again, in that book, you can also find more intel on these ideas as well. So 1 represents the actions which should take place every Monday or the first day of each week over a 7-day selling cycle period. 52 represents each week of the year. X represents any targeted demographic. So you can look at current customers. You can look at your largest customers. You can look at inactive customers. You can look at lost customers. If you have a sales representative, or let's go back to my military recruiters, you have a recruiter or a sales representative that's left the company, then their database of contacts should instantly be dropped into one of these 152X deployments. And then you have other sales professionals that can be following up on those leads. So this is very powerful to do every single week. Very powerful. All right, so with that one, so look at what you've written down, because we're going to play with that in a minute. So if you look at 152X and you get smart about that on a weekly basis. So think about this from another perspective. Some of you have invested in email marketing and social media marketing consultants to come in and just work with you on how to wordsmith your email marketing letters, or they've worked with you in terms of outreach campaigns on social media. Then I would also go back and see if in spirit you're following 152X with those, because if you just do one blitz on social media and put all those leads into your sales funnel, or you do one blitz in email marketing and you get all those leads out there coming to your sales funnel, that's feast and famine mentality, which unfortunately is what happens in almost every sales professional's sales funnel concept. It's like, I got no one to work down here in terms of customers. Everything in the middle is cold. So we do a ton of lead generation, just, put them all in the top of that funnel. We get so many, and then we have to start talking and working them. So we're not putting them in a measurable way. And so as you work these, anything else at the top is getting cooler. Then as you work this, it takes up more time as you come down a little bit further down. So now the ones here are getting cooler. Those are getting cold up there. This takes more time to administratively do the sell. So by the time you get done with the customer, everything in the middle is cool. The top is cold. Feast, famine in that traditional sales funnel model that we all have been taught at some point in our sales career. So what I advocate is you should never be, in essence, going into these sales blitzes where it's about massive lead generation, unless your people are ready to manage the leads and they have the professional sales skills to be able to communicate and have conversations and talk to those suspects to convert them to prospects, to convert them to customers. So 152X is very powerful as we kind of move this forward. So with that, let's transition. So what do we talk about? We talked about one of the tools in front of you already that's free, and that's LinkedIn. You don't even have to have a paid account. With LinkedIn, you want to make sure your profile is as rock star as it can be, loaded up with good editorial, good narrative. If you can put some videos in there, if you can have things you publish, articles you publish, reposition, repost, things you're sharing, that's going to draw traction. You want to make sure you're following all of your customers' organizations. You want to make sure you're following all of your key buyers within those organizations. You want to follow all of your key colleagues. You want to follow your key prospects. You want to follow your key competition. I mean, there's a lot of people to follow. And if you do, LinkedIn will do all the algorithm work, and they'll feed you every day any updates. And from that, you can look and see what those contacts are, where it makes sense. You link, the link will tell you whether or not there's a conversation to have next. And if so, then you just basically, leverage that connection. We then tee up what you're going to do to become more successful in selling, and that's 152X. If there's ever been a time to be doing 152X smartly, it's during these last 3 months, and moving forward, it needs to be a habit the rest of this year. So how do we make sure we're then connected with people? We talked about with 152X emails, types of emails. We talked about social media. We talked about outbound reaches. You could even take some of that messaging concept. If your demographic lives on cell phones, there's nothing wrong with even sending texts if it makes sense and you have their cell number. And in essence, you already know that it's okay for you to be talking back and forth with them. I mean, I use that all the time to connect with key people. I have adjutant generals, top general for the National Guard in certain states. I've got about a half a dozen of them. I've got my contact list, and we text every week, sometimes more than once a week. I've got CEOs, CFOs, COOs of major businesses that I'm in essence texting with, and I'm having regular Zoom calls with all those demographics. I have in essence sales professionals that I work with. I even offer any one of my audience. It's not just C-suite coaching. I offer any one of my audiences. If you want to jump on a Zoom call and do some coaching conversations, I'll do that. I've got one client organization with one of the brand new sales representatives took me up on that one. He felt very uncomfortable at first. I said, no, hey, I'm putting out there. My job is to help you as an organization to win. You're a part of the company. I'm here to help you to win. And so if you're serious, let's get it going. And boom, and a deep dive, and away we go. So if you're serious, then again, look at the ways you are serious in what you do. You follow what you type in your phone, you're serious. Last thought, 5 at 5. This has absolutely been the icing on the cake to success. So if we do something at the beginning of the week to tee us up for success, we need to do something at the end of each week to make sure we're measurable and that we're actually doing what we set out to do. Because all of us can get derailed during a day or during a week. So grab your phones again and bring up Friday. So just as you did on Monday, you pick any arbitrary time, hour, and an awkward minute, 2 hours into the day. That way it's not the first thing dinging you as the day gets started. I want you to go to Friday now, and I want you to pick an hour about 2 hours back into the day. So whatever time you typically start to mentally, if not physically, wrap up on a Friday, come in 2 hours. And you're the only one that knows the real answer. And if you were working a traditional 8 to 5 job, which pretty much no one's doing that now, but if you were, then I'm saying then come in around 3 o'clock if you're going to be done around 5. So pick an hour, 2 hours into the day before you leave on Friday, and then pick an awkward minute again so that you set that into your phone. So that way there's no likelihood of you double booking. So on mine, so this concept of 5 at 5 says this. I'll come back to the 5 at 5, but the first thing you've done is you picked an awkward time and a minute. So on my phone, there it is. I have in essence review 5 at 5, and I typed in 3:17 p.m. So on your phone, type in an hour. I picked 3 o'clock, an awkward minute. I picked the minute of 17. Type in a note that says review rule 5 at 5, review 5 at 5. Then hit repeat. So that repeats every Friday at that time for the rest of your life, and then hit save on that note. And then we're done with the phone for right now. But those 2 items on your phone now become very powerful ways to help you to significantly increase your level of success. So in theory, here's what 5 at 5 says. Then we're going to break this thing down and really turbocharge it as well. If you're a sales leader, sales manager, heads up. You're about to massively accelerate your sales team to success, or you're about to identify who on your sales team needs some help, some coaching and training to be able to step up because they're about to fall massively on their face. Or number 3, so 1 and 2 are both good notes. Or number 3, you're about ready to smoke out who on your team is lazy, and it's time to free them up to let them go get a new job in this market space. Because trust me, there's a ton of people looking for a job. You might as well have someone on your payroll that wants to actually work for you. So here's what 5 at 5 says. In theory, every Friday by 5 p.m., stop and sit down and on a piece of paper, on an Excel spreadsheet, on a whiteboard, wherever, jot down the top 5 contacts you're working to make your next sale. The top 5 prospects you're working to make your next sale. The top 5 customers you're in conversation on with the next new sale. So 5 at 5, every Friday, focus on the top 5 next sales you're working on. That in essence, in theory, maybe you can't do anything until Monday morning with them. Therefore, you've got the weekend to strategize and think through, who else do I need to maybe on the next phone call to help them make this sell? What do I need to show or present to them on the next interaction so that they'll feel more confident and comfortable to say, I need to make this purchase, or I need to join your organization, or I want to be a part of whatever it is you're having to offer. 5 at 5 is absolutely powerful. Now, here's how I use it with my client organizations. So again, as you put some additional turbocharged notes on 152X, let's go back and maybe look at those same notes. So to me, 5 at 5 should be this way. You should have multiple lists. So 1, what are your top core products? Those deserve their own list. So if I'm in a business and I have, more than 5 products, okay, well, what are the 5 most profitable? Or what are the 5 you want to really grow? Or what are the 5 that are your signature products? And think about the names of those on just a simple Word doc sheet or cross an Excel spreadsheet. And then underneath, 2 of the top 5 legitimate, serious prospects you're working to make the next sale with. And if it's an existing customer and they haven't bought it, to me, that's still a prospect. So again, who are the top 5 people you're talking to with each of those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 products? So that way, now what you're seeing is, are you actually aggressively working the last 4 days? Are you actually aggressively working the marketplace of suspects and prospects to have legitimate conversations in each of those, so that way you're not getting burned out by only focusing on one product? Because some market spaces do have a finite list of people and certain deliverables. But if you start adding more deliverables, now you have more opportunities. So the first subnote for 5 at 5 is by deliverable. Who are the top products? Then you could also take it by customer. You can even break it down. Who are my top 5 customers? And then under those top 5 customers, what are the top 5 proposals I've got in front of them? Can any one of those customers buy more than one product? And if so, you'll start to go, holy crap, I only look at this one customer through the lens of maybe 1 or 2 products. I didn't realize that there's maybe a dozen others they could be buying. Boom, now you can hold them accountable to make sure you're talking to them and having proposals under those. So you can even look at it by customer base. So let me go with another example. So again, that one there was for anyone in retail or anyone in manufacturing or distribution. So I've got some military recruiters on this line, some sales managers in that space. So let's say I'm a National Guard recruiter in Texas or West Virginia or Idaho or California. And my primary market is high school kids. Therefore, it's high schools. Well, if you haven't been tracking the news, they've not been in school for a while now. So again, it could be if I have 3 high schools or I have 10 high schools, each of those should be on the list. And sales managers should say, okay, Magee, if these are your 3 high schools, how many leads are you seriously working at each? Because almost every National Guard recruiter I've ever done this activity with, I can see their eyeballs opening up and inside their head they're going, holy crap, before I even ask them the question, because they know exactly where I'm headed once I teach 5 at 5. Because if you look at every one of your high schools, that's the primary market, who are the top 5 people you're working at every one of them? Most recruiters realize there's one school they're really working and the others are pathetic. So if I'm selling wire, if I'm selling electrical, if I'm selling, in essence, training programs, if I'm selling, in essence, automobiles, if I'm selling, whatever it is you're selling or marketing, doesn't matter. Think of the market space, geography, zip code, economic status, how many churches are in my area, am I marketing this? I mean, you can just go on and on and on. If I'm selling online merchant services, so a lot of people take credit cards. Well, if you're doing that, there's a zillion people that can provide that service, but every one of those places that in essence will will do the merchant service element, they have to actually go through a processor. There's less than a dozen processors in the United States that all of those credit card companies have to go through in order for that money to get batched through and come into your account or someone else's account. Well, one of those 5 is a colleague of mine. He's a friend. He lives in Houston, his company. And so again, same element. If I think about if I'm doing a ton in restaurants, I want to figure out where are the other restaurants like that one to go after. If I'm doing a ton in this market space, how do I find more like them? So again, 5 at 5 is a controlled way for you to see at the end of each week, am I really working all of what I have to sell to all the potential market opportunities? Because most salespeople, what I realized before COVID, the answer was no. And during COVID, it's become in essence nothing. It is absolutely, everyone is operating from a state of paralysis and stunned disbelief. I've got one organization that I work with. They have almost 500 sales professionals within them. And I'm tracking the real-time data, and what's amazing, they're all freaking out right now because the majority of the organization's sales have flatlined or are cratering. But I back up and said, wait a minute, let's not get too stressed out. If you look at the data in February, what's it show in February? And then they all kind of went, holy crap, you're right. We were not paying attention because we thought it was going to be a good year and things were going to kick up. But no, it was flatlined really then. So again, how do we change it? So I've given you 3 tools today of how to really deep dive in and change your sales situation if your objective really is to become more effective at what you're doing. So 5 at 5, some of the notes we just walked through, you can have it by top potential sales, organization, SKUs, businesses, industry, geography, by in essence, sales rep on my team. A lot of ways to deploy 5 at 5. So our job as individuals and our job as sales leaders and our job as sales owners of businesses is to make sure we're holding that team accountable for what's headed forward. So with that, take a deep breath, look at your notes. George, final polling question. Let's kind of see where everyone is today.
Yeah, Jeff, before I fire off this poll, there is a question. Maybe you can answer it while we're doing this poll.
Brilliant.
So what's the risk and reward to linking to your competition who are thinking to use the platform the same way?
Great question. So I'm a performance psychologist. And again, I don't mean any disrespect with anything I say, so please don't hear it that way. I look for long-term client relationships. That's how I built my business over the 30 years. Major training company that I sold a couple years ago, that was kind of the whole premise in it, with 144 employees and several hundred million in revenue. So I'm in it for the long term, not the one-time fix. So that's my preface to come back. First of all, don't worry about your competition learning from you and doing it because your competition's lazy, stupid, and not going to work. One more time. Most of your competition is lazy, stupid, and are not willing to work. Everyone wants an easy fix to every problem that's out there. So having that first understanding that, wait a minute, they're not going to figure out what the heck you're doing, so just do it and go for it. Now, for that one or two that might get a clue, which I really don't think they're going to unless they're one of my customers, then if they get it, that's fine. Then it's all about execution. Whoever executes better, executes smarter, is going to be at the front of that line, and they're always going to be playing catch up. So that's my first thought. Second, you want to follow your competition. They're probably not going to get the clue. So let's break it down. If you click follow on the organization's name, then unless whoever manages the corporate account tracks who's following them and puts that in a report back to the sales leadership team or the sales team, no one in the company is ever going to know. So that then goes back to who manages your company platform or who manages theirs. I've got one client in West Virginia that comes to mind. They've got a phenomenal marketing lady that runs that show there. And that would be a great question. So thank you. I learned from you just like you learned from me. So that's a question I'd pose to her, that if I click on follow her company, which I have, does she get that report? Does she ever look at that report for market intelligence to see who's out there following? So that's a great question. But most of the salespeople are going to have no clue you're following them because that's way too far up the food chain for them. Number three, if you click on follow and you're following a major competitor by name, yeah, they're going to know you're following them. But again, if you have neutral to good industry reputation and maybe even a relationship with them, it's not going to be a negative because then you can recognize, oh, you just had a baby, congratulations, or you just got promoted, fantastic. Because again, the next answer goes this: the market space is a pie. Think of a pie. The more you look at the pie as limited, then you're going to be scared of everything and you're going to be scared of the competition. Work from an abundance mentality. There's always more out there. It's like having a conversation about market share. Market share is critically important, absolutely. But I love the businesses that only fixate on market share because I can kick their butt every day of the week. I can kick their butt every day of the week. See, market share is the game that someone else has identified and defined that you're playing within. Market opportunity is the new game maker. So you want to say, yes, market share is where the existing dollars are floating. I want to get my piece or as large of it or all of it. But new market is market opportunity. Where are there other places that are not buying your product and they could be using it? Who are other people to go after? So great question. One, don't let it psych you out. Most of your competition has no clue. Most of your competition is not smart enough. When I say dumb, I don't mean like dumb, stupid. They're dumb to these ideas. The other element, market share, is going to be where you go. And three, just keep rocking it. It's not, you're never going to know. So like if a person asked the question, if I'm following you and today there's a post on your site, doesn't matter what it is, I go to it, and there's a person that clicked on your post and said, good, great job, I agree, celebrate, whatever. And that person, I click on them, it takes me to their LinkedIn profile page. And from there, I deduce it looks like a good prospect and click back out. You have no idea. I just harvested that from your landing page. That's clue number one. Now, if I didn't know you, I might click you and say, hey, Susan Jones just in essence said, great job on your post this morning. And when I look at her profile, she and her business looks like something that I would be able to serve. How do you know Susan? And is Susan and her business someone that could benefit from me the way you're benefiting from me? And if so, would you introduce me to her? See, now I turn you, the original landing page on LinkedIn, I turn you into a surrogate sales rep for me. So great question. My juices just fly, tons of opportunity. So George, back to you with a poll. Anything you want to wrap up on this page?
No, funny enough, the producer didn't launch the polls correctly again. So I went ahead and launched them. But while you were talking, everyone was giving me some feedback. So I appreciate all that. So, all right. So now we can move on.
All right. So I love it. So we're going to collapse the data down and we'll offer this back to everyone also as kind of a post-game follow-up of items as well. So again, a lot of great ideas. So again, so how can we keep helping you after today? Let me walk you through three items. One, we're going to share with you the last live webinar we did. We have recorded, and we'll let you have access to that if you want that. Stay with us. We'll show you how in a minute. And two, we also have a digital downloaded ebook free for you that will also recap some of these items as well. But the main thing I want you to jot down, and this is not a commercial, I just want you to be aware of other ways I can help you. But again, on, in essence, July 16th and 17th, if you are up and willing, come to Vegas. I know COVID has some people freaked out and scared, but again, the airlines are doing a phenomenal job with safety issues. Vegas is doing a phenomenal job with safety issues. We're holding our annual, our quarterly 2-day performance-driven selling boot camp in July. It's going to be only twice this year because the first 2 times we had it set this year, we obviously had to close down because of Mr. COVID came to town. So day 1, we're going to spend day 1 talking about strategic selling ideas for you and your business. Day 2 is going to be all tactical ideas, how to tactically engage a market. 152X as an example, 5 at 5 as an example of some of those items. Phenomenal work I get to do both in the, the National Association of Electrical Distributors in the electrical area, with agriculture, with finance, with business, automotive, just lots of industries I get to play with, and I'm really appreciative of it, as well as the National Guard. So again, a lot of testimonies. You can go to the website and see it. Green Valley Ranch is going to be the resort. If you've never been to Vegas, you'll love this property. If you've been to Vegas, you may be familiar with it. It's about 10 minutes off of the strip in one of our suburb areas. It's close to where I am. I love the program to do programs there, so that's what we're going to be doing a program. So there is a special price point. If you go to the website, it costs more. So I'm extending because you, in essence, Hunter, spent time with me today. Special price point for you, and more importantly, not just for you, but if you want to bring someone from your team, we're extending an additional bonus for each person you bring. It's even half of what you're paying for you. So again, just for you, and we'll send an email follow-up with all this information as well. But I really would encourage you to come to the program. If you have new salespeople, maybe it's a great program for you to come back with them, get off site, and really spend some great time looking at the strategies and techniques around business portfolio development for 2020, because absolutely a majority of all of us, our realities have changed. So the downloads I talked about, we're going to send you back an email with a digital download with the 5 steps of selling. Psychology teaches us no matter whether you're selling online or traditional face-to-face, our brain goes through 5 stages. We talked about this in our last webinar. We'll send that to you, a digital download replay opportunity, in a book as well. So again, a ton of ideas. We promised you 1 hour. We're right on track, and I will transition back. Any final questions anyone has, I'm more than willing to stay online and keep answering those. And if you need to sign off, thank you very much for being here. Let me know how we can help you with either webinar training this way to your team or coming in live as well. But George, any other wrap-up questions anyone has?
Yeah, there was one additional question, and the question was, do you automate your LinkedIn posts as you're sending stuff out, or do you do like personalized posts every time?
Great question. So 3 quick answers to that. 1, I personally organically manage my LinkedIn platform and do things myself. That's 1. 2, I do have a LinkedIn SEO manager, and she does some automated activities on it as well. Yes, there are people we're trying to reach out to, so it's a whole other conversation, but you can identify what a good avatar, a good prospect to your business or to your core product lines look like, and there's ways to go out and scrape LinkedIn profiles to find people you're not connected to and to send basically a connect request, and then you can automate some conversations to build up some rapport with them to kind of lead you to, I'd love to jump on a phone call and visit with you and learn more about your business. So I have that process in play. And then IBM, hey, if you're a small business person, listen up. If you're a large corporation, this might even be of interest as well. IBM has a software program. It's called Amy, and it's an automated system you can purchase. It's very economical. And then you can load in messages. You can load in the graphics. You can load in how often you want it to post. And you can set that up as campaign drips, and then launch it, and it can drip campaigns out as well. So I do it on 3 levels. So yes, I actually do some things. I've got a colleague on my team that does things, and I have an automated system that does things. So yes, yes, and yes.
Excellent. Well, no, that's all we got, Jeff. We're going to wrap it up. We appreciate your time today. Always great wisdom all the time. And I'm sure I speak for everyone that's on here. Thank you for sharing your intellectual capital with us. Very powerful, and definitely something that we appreciate.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone who's with us today. George, thanks for, as always, making sure we run on time and run good. And watch your email for our next webinar. And I look forward to seeing, hopefully, a lot of you here in Vegas into July. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everybody.